When last we left off, we had finished getting the light arrows in Stone Tower Temple, the darkest part of the game. Arguably, we get the light arrows. If you've been following canonically what's been happening with arguably the entire game in general, you may find yourself wondering, why in the world would there be light arrows in not just the Stone Tower, or the Land of Icona, the darkest part of Termina, but why in Termina in general? The light arrows in Ocarina of Time, at least, were treated as pretty much a big deal. They were given to you specifically by Zelda to destroy Ganondorf. The light arrows had a lot of importance, but here, similarly to the other elemental arrows, they are treated as dungeon items. So why, then? Why here of all places? Well, oddly enough, if you look at it this way, you can see that each elemental arrow is put in a specific place. The fire arrows are put in Snowhead Temple, thus to melt the snow. The ice arrows are put in Great Bay Temple, thus to freeze the water. And finally, the light arrows are put in Stone Tower Temple to dispel the darkness. Now, in the other two temples, it's fine, whatever, they're there. But one wonders why such importance is placed on the arrows in a land of darkness, light arrows. Just their presence there in general is curious at most. Well, it's briefly mentioned by the Garrow Master as to what they do, and if you haven't figured out by now, we're about to show you. Remember that blood-red stained diamond? Yeah, we have to shoot the light arrow into it. And by now, you will probably have caught on to why we see a bunch of things upside down in the temple. That's right. Shooting the light arrows into the blood-stained emblem turns the entire temple, I was going to say the entire world or the entire universe, but we find out that that's probably not true. But definitely the temple is flipped upside down. I remember playing through this as a kid and being fascinated by the prospect of what was happening right now. By simply flipping everything upside down, in my opinion, it kind of adds an entirely different meaning to the temple. And of course I didn't think it at the time, but now that as adults and really as, well, whatever, for me at least, as an adult, we are able to realize exactly what the importance of flipping it upside down has in terms of the story. As we stated earlier, Stone Tower Temple was built out of a desire by the Icona people to reach the goddesses, and possibly not the Icona people specifically, but maybe everybody within Termina. Though that is left up to speculation, as we see there are some good people in Termina. But in the context of this potentially true story, background thing, they built it as the Tower of Babel idea of trying to get up to heaven to either be with a deity figure or to slay the deity figure in this case. Of course, the goddesses of time were not happy with this idea, this notion, and being goddesses, they knew exactly what was going on. So they came up with a plan to stop the Icona from reaching their realm. They gave them the arrows of light. They left it in the temple for them, so that they would fire it into the blood-stained emblem and then flip it upside down. Why they would do this in the first place, I'll be honest, I don't really know. I think it's purely out of them thinking that something good would come of it because, you know, they gave it to us. It must not be something terrible, though that doesn't really explain why evil people who are trying to go against these goddesses would think that, but I think that's the only really plot hole I could find in this entire story. Anyways, so when they shot the light arrows, instead of going up to heaven, figuratively, they of course started going downwards to hell, figuratively. Again, it's not really specified that where the goddesses reside is heaven or another specific sacred realm, or if the hell that we will get into later is a specific hell or just a different place in general, like a evil realm or something. Again, I find all of this theory much more interesting than me completely screwing up every single facet of this temple in trying to do things. The only reason I say that is because just now I witnessed, or you probably witnessed me wasting 4 light arrows. And by the way, light arrows consume as much magic to fire as twice as much as fire and ice do. It's described as 2 magic points versus 4 magic points, though with just our magic bar, that's not really very easy to pick out. And yeah, that Dexy hand did nothing. I thought it might throw us to somewhere else, but not such luck. Anyway, yeah, I continue to prove my complete incompetence to play this game, and it's really heartily embarrassing. And don't worry, it'll become much more so when we get to the final boss, who, if you don't know who it is... By the way, here's another foul up. I meant to put on the Goron's mask, but I put on the Deku mask. And of course, when you step in the fire, you burn, and it's stupid. Dumb mistakes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure for this room you just do the Goron suit. I don't know how else you would get across. This room, and the next room, I want to say... Yeah, these 2 rooms in particular bring up a very peculiar, seemingly potential plot hole in the entire idea of flipping the entire temple on its upside down. Because if that's the case, then are we just flipping the temple again by shooting into these bloodstained emblems? In the last room and this room, we do it as if it's commonplace, as if it's nothing, as if there's no major, I don't know, consequence that could possibly happen by us flipping the entire temple while we are inside it. It could very well be just whatever, you know, they didn't think that anybody would catch on to the fact that they were basically effing up their entire story, or it's just a gimmick that they liked exploiting. Either way, as you can tell, we have to get the Majora's Mask block over to the hole where it will then fall. And when you come back into the temple, or into this room in particular, if you ever have to, the block will stay right there where it is, which is nice, I gotta say. And then there's this fight. It really makes me sad that Wizrobe has been just completely neutered as a potential boss. You know, it's bad enough that this game made him the boss twice in the Snowhead Temple, which I can understand, because with the frogs it's the same way. But for whatever reason, they also decided to make him a mini-boss within the Castle of Icona, if you remember that. And then here... And I didn't play it because, you know, the audio got messed up, but here, it's like, he doesn't even get mini-boss music. Like the... No, he just gets regular, like, enemy music, like the... You know, the kind of music given to these stupid Poes that are hanging in this room for some reason. It was just really unfortunate that the Wizrobe, who for all intents and purposes I always thought was kind of cool in the Zelda universe, but in this game, it's just so painful to see him reduced to such a low. But whatever. These enemies, Death Armuses, I always thought Golurk, for those of you who play Pokemon, looked like a Death Armos. And yeah, Navi... Whoa, I just did it again. Sorry. Tattle, if you focus on them as like an enemy bio, she'll say, hey, have you seen that symbol before? And that basically is the same symbol that we shoot the light arrow in to turn the temple upside down. So the idea is that you shoot them, make them turn upside down, and then when they go into the ground, they kind of hit their heads and explode. Video game logic, I won't question it. That should be everything in this room. More on the legend later, because there are a couple aspects that, once I start talking about them, will give away a particular item in this temple that I don't really want to talk about yet. I want to actually get to it. And high floating pots, as randomly strewn throughout this temple as they were in the Snowhead temple, like at the very end. Anybody else notice that? I thought so. And those stupid enemies, the blue bubbles. Yeah, light arrows, shoot them at them, and it gives us 50 rupees. This will become very important later, and they respawn very quickly. You'll see why it will become important. I'll get into it later. But not this segment, nor next segment. And now we have a boss comprised of bats. And again, I hate to quote other LPers, but I heard one that likened him to Darkrai, the Pokemon. It's kind of true. And right there, Tattle says, does that shed any light on the situation? Bad joke, Tattle. Bad joke. Yeah, you have to shoot a light arrow at his stomach, and that makes the bats disappear, thus allowing you to hit him. And he does... To his credit, Gomez, odd name, does very strong attacks, and he takes quite a while to die, even with the good sword. But since we have it, and since we use our shield, he is not that difficult. He goes down, and as a result, unfortunately we can't get that scythe. That'd be cool. But now, we get the most important part of any temple, the boss key. And more to come later. Yeah,